Hi, everybody. Tom Phelan here again with the Truth About Self Esteem. Interesting, in the last 100 years, there have been 23,215 more than that, books, articles, and all that written about self-esteem. The result has been inflated egos, unrealistic expectations. Like over 50% of high school seniors say they're going on for an advanced degree, 9% actually do. Increase in narcissism and self-attributions of superiority. Some studies of college students show that 75% of college students feel they're superior to everybody else in their class. Let's look at definitions of self-esteem. There's been a lot of confusion in the area about self-esteem. Some people think it's a one-dimensional rock-like changing power inside you. If you can just get in touch with this wonderful thing inside, self-esteem, everything will be fine. Other people have said self-esteem is based on your relationships with other people. Other people say it's your ability to believe in yourself. But as many people ask, what am I supposed to believe in about myself? Others have said self-esteem is your ability to, or your courage to face life, to face anxiety head on and not be intimidated. Others say it's to control your destiny, be the captain of your own ship. William James, about 100 years ago, as a psychologist, so very well known at the time, said it's your work or career. He said it's what you back yourself to be that determines your self-esteem. Other people have come close to saying that self-esteem is pretty much an inalienable right, that we're all entitled to it by birth. We're entitled to life, liberty, and high self-esteem. Now, on the other side, people like the famous psychologist Albert Ellis, some of you might be familiar with, said self-esteem and the obsession with it is a kind of sickness. It's a bad thing. And one of the most disturbing comments on self-esteem comes from a psychologist at the University of Denver, Susan Harder, a very sharp gal who reviewed research and found that the biggest predictor of global self-esteem in everybody, all societies and so on, was perceived physical appearance. It means what you think you look like. This was true for all ages. It was true for conduct disordered youth, as well as older kids who were disabled. The research held up in 12 countries. The average correlation was 0.56, which, if you know anything about correlations, that's very high. So we're saying what people think of themselves is based largely, or to a big extent, on how they think they look or appear to other people. And Susan Harder also found out this can lead to a depressed affect. We're going to come back to this later because this is kind of disturbing. And this is the fly in the ointment, if you want. There was also in the United States a strange self-esteem movement. And the theory behind the self-esteem movement was that self-esteem problems are the cause of all kind of social difficulties. So we need to fix self-esteem because self-esteem causes success. The idea in the schools was what we sometimes call feel-good learning. And what that meant was that the competition was bad, negative feedback was bad. And so we want the kids to feel good all the time as they're going through school. So teacher asks, what's the capital of Egypt? This little girl enthusiastically raises her hand, says Mississippi. And the teacher says, that's the correct answer to another question. Not wanting to say wrong or not wanting to hurt the self-esteem of the girl. Yes, I'm laughing. That's funny. That's silly. That's not anything that you want to do. Another thing was the uniqueness people. Say to kids, you're unique, there's nobody else like you, that makes you special. If you have a sharp fourth grader, they will ask the teacher, everybody in the class is unique? Teacher says yes, and say, what's unique about that? We're all really the same and nobody's any better or more talented than anybody else. So uniqueness is a bust. It's trying to make self-esteem out of nothing. How are we going to get back to reality? What we're going to do is we're going to think of you as the expert. Believe it or not, you've got the memories and the intelligence inside yourself to figure self-esteem out. Let's try and do it. About 50, 60 years ago, a fellow came along, a psychologist, and he talked about a 3-month-old baby lying in a crib with a rattle hanging over her head. She grabs the rattle at one point and makes the rattle, and she screams with delight. This was Robert White, 1959, an article called Motivation Reconsidered. The concept of competence, White's idea was that little kids, even babies and toddlers and everything, are oriented for mastering their environments and for making themselves competent. Why did the baby laugh? Some version at 3 months old of self-esteem, delight with mastery and delight with competence. Evolutionary psychologists tell us that 3 to 7 million years ago, a long time ago, for a long, long time, humans have been concerned about adapting to their environment. We had many problems to solve, like not being eaten by larger animals than we are. And so we developed a whole bunch of instincts, and extremely complicated. This is a guy named Robert Port from the University of Indiana, and he has just a very entertaining and I think accurate list of instincts. It's not just seeking food and water or sex or keeping yourself alive, but look at some of the other ones: competing for resources, loving children and cute things like baby animals and so on, imitating others, bonding with your group, being curious and learning, a sense of awe, exploring and being adventurous. This is sort of a how to live manual. If you add them all up, what do you get? You get human nature. All these instincts we're talking about are evolved mental processes then, and evolved mental processes that help us deal with nature and with the problems we have to solve. They're innate, yes, they're modified by learning, but they're built into us at birth in our genetic structure. They're universal throughout the species. They're adaptive. There's a billion of them. They're automatic, and they have an on-off switch. They're not always operating. They go on and off. So as little kids are growing up, they have a whole growing up list of stuff they have to do, such as rolling over. And let's take a look at some of the others. Other things that you have to do is getting along with other people. How do you feel if you're getting along with other people? How do you feel if your parents like you? Your self-esteem will go up at that moment. You have academic confidence at school that kids have to attack. How do you feel if you get good marks? The girl on the right, high self-esteem moment. The boy on the left, bad self-esteem moment. Do you ever remember getting caught doing something wrong? We're supposed to follow the rules. We get caught doing something wrong, what happens? Self-esteem goes down. How about being praised for your effort? Good self-esteem moment. How many friends did you have in junior high school? Yeah, getting along with other people and having a good group of friends makes for higher self-esteem. Do you ever remember getting dumped for the first time? I can remember getting dumped for the first time. It was not a positive self-esteem moment. Can you ever remember expressing compassion or sympathy for another friend or relative or whatever? How did that feel? It felt good. Your self-esteem probably went up. Experts tell us there is a self-esteem instinct for compassion that's part of our repertoire. And also big instinct for independent competence, independence from who? Your parents largely, but doing stuff on your own. So what can we conclude about this? We can conclude that we should be talking about self-esteem's plural, not self-esteem singular, but there are many different sub-aspects of self-esteem. Nature has all these requirements for mastering our environment, and self-esteem helps the process. So when we are succeeding, we feel good. We feel good about ourselves, and our self-esteem, in a sense, goes up. So here's a graphic representation, I love this cartoon, of what I think self-esteem is. We have the overall mastery instinct to be competent, master our environments. Self-esteem is like a booster rocket added onto that. So when we're successfully mastering our environment, the self-esteem is going to be positive. We got a little bit of a problem here. Self-esteem and the instincts we have, evolutionary psychologists tell us, were not developed by sympathetic mental health professionals who put only the good stuff that we like on there. There's also things connected to self-esteem that we don't like. Susan Harder's issue of looks, how we feel about how we look. Competition is linked to self-esteem. The audience effect, what other people think of us, is linked to self-esteem. And money is linked to self-esteem. We don't like this. These are strongly connected to self-esteem, but they also elicit disapproval from people. So we're going to talk about one of these in just a second, but they're part of self-esteem. But I'm saying that you know the truth about self-esteem because you grew up and you knew what it was all about, not what you wanted it to be about, but what you thought it was about. So we talk about parenting a lot. What does this have to do with parenting? Well, parenting and self-esteem in a program like 1, 2, 3 Magic, I know this is a bit of an ad, but we have 3 jobs that parents are taking care of: difficult behavior in kids, encouraging positive behavior, and bonding. And that's going to cover a whole lot of the self-esteem equation. Not quite all of it, but a whole lot of it. So if you help your kids deal with obnoxious behavior, not tantrum, not whine and all that, that's going to help their self-esteem in the long run. You help them independently get out of bed in the morning, do their homework, eat their dinner, and so on. That's going to help their self-esteem. And you help them get along with you and develop social skills. That's going to help as well. So what's self-esteem about? It's about good parenting. It's about 1, 2, 3 magic. Let's go back for a second before we run out of time here. Let's talk about the untouchables, the things that were connected to self-esteem that we don't like being connected to self-esteem. Well, too bad if we don't like it. They are connected to self-esteem, and we've got to solve this. I want to try and solve in 2 minutes Susan Harder's proposed problem about the connection between looks and self-esteem. How do we try and solve it usually? We try and solve it by coming up with a therapeutic maxim and an opposing value and so on. So we have opposing instincts versus our concern with looks of sexual modesty and humility. And we say things like personality is what makes somebody beautiful, not a perfect face or body. Beauty comes from within. This is incorrect. The instinct we're talking about is a concern about one's physical appearance. Yes, personality is also important, but this is a concern about physical appearance. If we're going to deal with the untouchables and deal with self-esteem realistically, we have to deal with this kind of thing. So let's do it. Well, a lot of times with regards to looks, we have some major cognitive distortions that we think that make us feel bad. That's why the connection between self-esteem and physical appearance is disturbing to us. Here's what we think. I'm one of the few average or unattractive people. 90% of happiness comes from sexual attractiveness. The way I look, I'll never find a mate, and my life sucks. Okay? These are thoughts that we have. These are incorrect. Let me tell you why I think they're incorrect, and suggestions for a more reasonable approach, how we deal with this dilemma that we have about physical appearance. 90% of people are not hot. 90% of people are not beautiful, handsome, or good looking. The media percentage is a lot higher. The percentage you see on TV is a lot higher. But people who are hot and good looking are going to get more attention than you and I are when they walk into a room. Are we jealous? Yes. Okay, too bad. A little bit of envy, a little bit of jealousy. That's the way it is. But let's go further. Most of us are average looking. So we got a lot of company if we're average looking. And so we accept our envy, don't let it ruin you, then relax and let that feeling of envy go. Sexiness is affected by good looks, but not totally. It also is affected by personality. It's a complex issue. How do people find partners? Well, if the hot people and the good-looking people are the only ones that get married, that leaves 90% of us that don't get married. People find partners by a matching process, and they match good looks. They also match self-esteem. So everybody, in a sense, most people find someone for them. 80 to 90% of people who are average-looking or hot-looking want marriage and kids. 80 to 90% of those that are ugly, average-looking, or hot-looking get marriage and kids. And a significant percentage of these are not happy. 50% of these are going to wind up being divorced, no matter what they look like. Average people, looks-wise, can enjoy falling in love, companionship, sex, having children, friends, exercise, good food, just as much as someone who is super-duper hot. Average people can also get divorced, get fat, become depressed, make themselves miserable just as easily as people who are beautiful or good looking. So what do you want to do? Maximize whatever physical attractiveness you have. It's going to decrease with age for just about everybody anyway. So this is an example of taking one of the untouchables. It's part of self-esteem. Let's not make self-esteem into something that it isn't. Let's look at it realistically. Summary, self-esteem is an instinct. It's adaptive. It's universal throughout the species. It has an on-off switch. That on-off switch is fast, and self-esteem enhances the mastery instinct as human beings develop and grow up.